Hello, and welcome to my oral presentation, Your Right to Bear Arms or My Right to Live. My name is Lawana Ross, and I'm a health science major at Atlanta Metropolitan State College. I hope to attend Grady School of Radiology in the spring and earn my certification to become a neurosonographer. In this presentation, I will use my expertise in extensive research to answer the puzzling question, should any citizen who does not have a criminal record be permitted to carry a concealed weapon? Just because you can, does this mean you should? It's a puzzling question my grandmother used to ask me as a young girl to challenge my critical thinking in a decision or a choice that I made. She relied on me to use my expertise at the time to come around and make the right decision. So I pose this question to the audience. Just because you can own a firearm, does this mean you should? Gun violence in the United States has been a controversial topic for decades. There's a clear divide among citizens as to should this policy be in place and what proper procedures should be put in place so that people feel safe. My position is very clear. I do not believe every citizen should be permitted to carry a firearm or a concealed weapon solely based on obtaining a permit. Firearms were used in 74% of homicides and 87% of youth homicides, and that increased over the previous years. According to the CDC, during 2015 and 2016, firearm homicides claimed the lives of 27,394 people, while another 44,955 individuals died from firearm suicide alone. Owning a firearm only increases the risk of being victimized by a gun-related incident. And there's insufficient background checks and ununiform policies across the U.S. that leads to large gaps in identifying who is actually responsible enough to own this type of weaponry. There are many others out there that would oppose my point of view and say that there's the Second Amendment right, and it's an American constitutional right to bear arms that is given to American citizens as a right to protect themselves from harm and wield the right of owning a firearm. There's also a belief that a person that carries a concealed weapon will deter crime. There has been policies and laws put in place, like the Brady Act of 1994, that requires states to have some sort of policy where a background check is run to perform and be performed prior to the sale of a firearm. And there is also this belief that as long as a person has passed a background check successfully, that's sufficient enough for them to own a concealed weapon. Though there are those that oppose my point of view, have very valid points that the Second Amendment right gives citizens a constitutional right to bear arms, and that there are some policies and procedures put in place, and laws and guidelines put in place to make sure that there are background checks done. To what extent is there truly any evidence showing that those factors actually protect us from harm? The facts are gun-related fatalities and injuries are on the rise. And criminals arm themselves knowing that there are concealed carriers out there. And if a permit holder loses their weapon, they are likely arming those same criminals that they are trying to protect themselves from. The Brady Act of 1994, although it is in place and it provides some guideline as to how background checks should be administered by the state, there's a large loophole in Brady. It doesn't require background checks for guns bought from private sellers nor at gun shows. So if a criminal wanted to arm themselves, or an unresponsible person wanted to arm themselves, all they have to do is seek out a private seller or go to a gun show. Many states have so many different policies and procedures put in place around background checks and the resale of firearms that there's no uniform policy and guideline to protect individuals from gun-related incidents. And an example of that is James Holmes. He assessed all of his weapons legally from multiple sporting goods stores, and on July 20th of 2012, he opened fire in a movie theater and massacred 12 lives and injured 70 others. And those victims are just a few amongst many who were left unprotected by lack of policies and guidelines on gun control. So in conclusion, unmonitored gun control only leads to higher levels of crime and suicide. There needs to be proper governance over gun control laws run by the federal administration to ensure that statewide these policies are uniform to prevent gaps and loopholes of these concealed weapons being misused. Permitting an overabundance of access to these weapons only allows room for error, and irresponsible individuals have easy access to these weapons. Accessibility to non-permitted carriers will only increase due to the lack of ununiform policies that we see today. And this puts ourselves and others that we love in danger, where we have to live in fear of who's next. So do your research, do your homework, and join in the fight to uniform gun control policies so that we all may have the chance to see a brighter day.